I am the supporting female character in a redemption story, yet because of the protagonist's law, the male lead I've been nurturing for 10 years still abandoned me, turning to embrace my illegitimate half-sister instead. He even humiliated me right in front of my face. They say it's all my pestering that has kept him from being with his true love, given a second chance at life. Looking at the gloomy young man before me, I smiled and lowered my head to speak to my assistant beside me. Cut off his scholarship and kick him out of my school. I have been reborn on the day of my coming-of-age ceremony. My father brought home the daughter he had raised outside for 18 years, publicly forcing my mother to acknowledge this girl. And what breaks my heart the most is, the boy I love most stands by the side of the illegitimate daughter, calling me cold and heartless, forcing me to acknowledge this sister, in my past life, for his sake. I held back tears and acknowledged this illegitimate daughter, and my mother fell ill from anger because of me. Now, having been reborn, I look at Ji Changfeng standing protectively in front of the illegitimate daughter, with a faint, ambiguous smile. I twist my wrist and deliver a resounding slap. The people around were in a panic. Ji Changfeng was stunned by my slap, covering his face and looking at me in disbelief. I stood by my mother's side, a mocking smile curling on my pretty face. What kind of person do you think you are, relying on a bit of good looks and daring to overstep your bounds? This is our family matter, and it's not your place as an outsider to speak. Seeing her dear brother being beaten, the illegitimate daughter immediately stepped forward with tears in her eyes. Sister, Brother Changfeng is not an outsider. He is my benefactor. I won't allow you to insult him. Looking at the young girl who had stepped forward, I sneered coldly and said, "And who do you think you are? What does your benefactor have to do with me? Besides, I'm also a patron of your benefactor, so technically, you should call me Dad." The young masters and ladies around couldn't help but burst into laughter when they heard me say that. Ji Changfeng's face turned pale and then flushed, but he couldn't find any words to refute, because he really was a student I had sponsored, at 15. I fell in love with him at first sight and then took on all his tuition and living expenses. Seeing my disrespectful words, my father frowned and sternly interrupted me. "Gu Pan, do you even see me as your father anymore?" I gave him a half-smile, then signaled to the bodyguard beside me. The bodyguard understood immediately and stepped forward to block my father. I said unhurriedly, "Father, you're tired. Let your daughter handle these trivial matters." With that, the bodyguard forcefully dragged my father away and threw him out of the venue in front of everyone. Looking at my still calm mother and the incredulous illegitimate daughter before me, the corners of my mouth lifted slightly, and a gentle smile returned to my face. "Little sister, it's okay to be poor, but lying is not good. You claim with just empty words that you are my father's child. How am I supposed to believe that? What if you're a bastard trying to swindle my family's fortune? Ah. When you carry a treasure, you're bound to encounter hungry wolves." After saying this, I even put on a show of letting out a long sigh, and scattered laughter echoed around once more. The illegitimate daughter's face turned a riot of colors, looking quite splendid. I was about to say something when Ji Changfeng, who was standing nearby, stopped me. "Gu Pan, don't go too far. What right do you have to insult someone?" I glanced at Ji Changfeng, only to be met with his even more self-righteous stance. I smiled, turned around, and slapped him hard again. Looking at Ji Changfeng, who was covering his face, my eyes were filled with disdain. "It's not your turn to speak, you ungrateful wretch. The scholarship I gave you could make you kneel and kowtow to me several times, and now you're here speaking up for someone else. Who do you think you are? A bastard born of a mistress, just as despicable as the bitch behind you. Just looking at you makes me sick." Upon hearing the word mistress, Ji Changfeng's movements paused, and for the second time today, he looked at me in disbelief, while I simply snapped my fingers. The bodyguard stationed outside stepped forward and easily restrained the two individuals. Looking at the crowd of onlookers, I raised my voice with a smile. "These are people from the Gu family here to freeload. Apologies for the embarrassment. Please forgive our inadequate hospitality, everyone. Please continue to enjoy the food and drinks." The birthday party continued as usual, while Ji Changfeng and that illegitimate daughter were dragged into the Gu family's basement. The bodyguard stood guard at the door, waiting for me to deal with them after the birthday party ended. I am the supporting female character in a redemption story, and Ji Changfeng is the male lead of that redemption story, due to the protagonist's law. I provided Ji Changfeng with financial aid and carefully nurtured his fragile nerves and self-esteem, Yet I still lost to my illegitimate half-sister, simply because they were childhood sweethearts, and the illegitimate daughter was the heroine, and that ungrateful Ji Changfeng, after making it big, felt that my support was a humiliation beneath his dignity, and, in cahoots with the illegitimate daughter, swiftly drove me to bankruptcy. Going bankrupt is one thing, but to save that worthless female lead of his, he actually forced me onto the operating table and transplanted one of my kidneys to her. In the end, I died not long after due to an infection. Damn it, what kind of relationship is this? It feels more like I was trapped in a scam compound, and because of my strong obsession, I miraculously came back to life, knowing that I am a supporting character. The phenomenon of my intelligence dropping whenever I encountered Ji Changfeng in my previous life now has a full explanation. Now that I have been given a second chance at life, I must make sure Ji Changfeng knows who the real protagonist is. After the birthday banquet ended, my mother, in front of all the wealthy families in the capital, announcing with a smile that she would gift me 25% of the shares. From then on, I officially participated in the decision-making of the Gu Group. Becoming the second largest shareholder after my mother, this was completely different from my previous life. In my previous life, I couldn't withstand Ji Changfeng's interrogation and was forced to let the illegitimate daughter into the house, and with a long sigh, mother said nothing. I knew she was disappointed in me. Watching mother hold the golden rice bowl in her hands, the corner of my mouth twitched slightly, but my hand honestly reached out to take it. This was the symbol of the Gu family's authority. Back then, my grandfather knew his son was a fool, so he went all out to invite my mother, a business prodigy, into the family. After my mother gave birth to me, he even transferred 70% of the Gu family's shares to her name, and handed over the golden rice bowl, symbolizing the position of the head of the family, to her. And my father, that spendthrift, didn't have a penny to his name. This also made my father rebellious, and he treated my mother even worse. After the birthday banquet ended, my mother and I went our separate ways. My mother went to deal with my father, while I went to deal with the illegitimate daughter. I entered the confinement room with ease. The illegitimate daughter had her mouth tightly stuffed, and she was tied to the radiator along with Ji Changfeng. The butler behind me brought a chair for me. I sat down gracefully, raised my hand, and signaled to remove the socks from their mouths. Ji Changfeng spat twice, then warned me with a gloomy expression, "Gu Pan, I'm giving you one last chance. Accept Cha-Cha into the family, and I'll forgive you." I was drinking tea at the time, and upon hearing this, I sprayed a mouthful of water right onto his chiseled face. I couldn't help but laugh at Ji Changfeng. Ji Changfeng, are you out of your mind? Watch your attitude. Right now, you should be the one begging for my forgiveness. You're in my hands now. If I'm in a bad mood, I'll send you to the club tonight to work as a male escort. With your looks, you're sure to be popular with wealthy women. As soon as I finished speaking, Ji Changfeng tried to say something, but the butler was quick to react and stuffed the sock back into his mouth. I saw with my own eyes the butler pull those socks right off a passing waiter's feet, guaranteed to be authentic. With my support, Ji Changfeng had been living like a young master, and suddenly being humiliated like this made him feel like he wanted to die. After dealing with this ungrateful wretch, I turned to look at that delicate, fragile illegitimate daughter. Looking at her face, I was reminded once again of how she had incited Ji Changfeng to bankrupt me in my previous life. I condescended to rise and walk over to her, looking down at her from above. Then, catching her off guard, I ruthlessly slapped her across the face. With a smile at the corner of my mouth, I spoke to her as if teasing a pet. In our family, what father says doesn't count, but if you insist on entering, you may. Either you let me slap you 10 times, and I'll let you in, or I'll withdraw my investment in Ji Changfeng and let him go work as a gigolo at the White Horse Club, and you can come into my house. After I finished speaking, I signaled to the butler, who once again pulled the sock out of Ji Changfeng's mouth. I looked at Ji Changfeng with great interest, only to see his face alternating between green and pale. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said to Gu Cha-Cha, "Just bear with it this time." I glanced at Gu Cha-Cha's unpleasant expression and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Then I stood up decisively, still wearing the gorgeous little dress from the birthday party, walked over to Gu Cha-Cha, twirled the gemstone ring on my hand, deliberately turning the sharp diamond toward my palm. Then she slapped Gu Cha hard across the face. The slap was loud and sharp. I looked at the disheveled Gu Cha before me, and remembered how in my past life, she stood beside Ji Changfeng, arrogantly demanding my kidney. Still want my kidney? Then I'll start by slapping your face until it's ruined. After the slap, Gu Cha's face swelled up high, with deep bloody scratches mixed in among the bruised and purple cheeks. Those were wounds left by my ring. I glanced at Ji Changfeng beside me, whose eyes were bloodshot, and smiled. Isn't this what you chose for your childhood sweetheart? Why are you acting so aggrieved now? What a hypocritical man. After saying that, I wiped my hands with a wet wipe and casually tossed it at Ji Changfeng, then raised my voice to instruct the butler, find a good doctor to treat Miss Gu Cha's face properly, so she doesn't embarrass the Gu family in the future. As for this ungrateful wretch who repays kindness with enmity, throw him into the basement and feed him leftovers. Let him reflect on his actions. With that, I lifted my skirt and turned to leave, leaving the detention room in complete disarray. Over there, Mother had already finished disciplining Father and walked out of the adjacent room with an air of composure. I noticed specks of blood on her trousers, suggesting that Father would likely be bedridden for the next 10 days or so. I quickly stepped forward, took my mother's arm, and greeted her with a smile, but my mother frowned, took my hand, and seeing my palm redden from slapping Gu Cha, she said, "Next time, find a riding whip from my collection room, that won't hurt your hand." I nodded with a smile, then took my mother's hand and led her upstairs. Mother's private lawyer was waiting in the living room. As soon as we arrived, he immediately took out the equity gift contract. Mother watched me sign each page, smiling with great affection. I've already taken care of the other shareholders. When the shareholders meeting comes, it will just be a formality, and then it's done. Pan. You also need to start learning how to manage the company. The lawyer finished packing up his things, and I took a sip of the tea on the table. Speaking unhurriedly, I agreed to let the illegitimate daughter into the house. My mother raised an eyebrow, but then she heard me continue. As for that man, I plan to lock him up for a while and then send him to the White Horse Club to pay off his debts. After speaking, I exchanged glances with my mother. After a few back and forths, she understood my meaning. A flicker of satisfaction crossed my mother's face as she smiled and handed me a piece of osmanthus cake. Truly, my daughter, you've got guts. I took it and stuffed it into my mouth, wearing a rare expression of innocent delight. Mom, you're really too much. Testing me is one thing, but why do it on my coming-of-age ceremony? Mother watched me eat with loving eyes and smiled. It's just because I've noticed you've been getting a bit too deep into it lately. So I wanted to give you a little reminder. I deliberately rolled my eyes and snuggled up to my mom. With my mother's methods, Gu Pan and Ji Changfeng wouldn't even be able to set foot in my house. Anyone getting close to me would be detected, so the fact that they could cause a scene at my coming-of-age ceremony was something my mother deliberately allowed. She wanted to see if I would abandon my principles for a man, to test whether I had what it takes to inherit the company in my past life. Due to the plot, I allowed Gu Cha to enter, which greatly disappointed my mother. In this lifetime, my ruthless methods have greatly satisfied my mother. That's why I obtained shares in the Gu family that are worth a sky-high market value. My mother stroked my hair, her smile unwavering, but her words sent a chill down my spine. I won't touch this illegitimate daughter myself. I'll leave her for you to practice on. I chuckled softly. Then what if I end up playing her to death? My mother, however, didn't seem to care. If she dies, she dies. A bastard child is nothing but a worthless life. The entire upper class of the capital knows that the men of the Gu family are all useless, but Gu Cha doesn't know that, so after she recovered, when her father came to paint a rosy picture for her, she ate it up with relish. Her father is a fool. He thinks he can keep this illegitimate daughter. Then, after mother's death, her shares will also be part of the illegitimate daughter's inheritance. Yet, I scoff at his petty schemes, a small-minded man with narrow vision, who never thinks of expanding the enterprise's territory. Instead, their hearts and minds are completely consumed by the trivial matters of their own small world. In the end, such people are simply cast aside. In the plot, there is another man like the father, whose heart is smaller than the eye of a needle, that is Ji Changfeng, who was locked in the basement and fed dog food. In my previous life, in the end, Ji Changfeng, to humiliate me, sent me a bag of cheap dog food after I went bankrupt, holding Gu Cha as he looked down on me from above. Gu Pan, didn't you look down on us before? Now I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and eat this bag of dog food in front of us, and I'll give you a job sweeping the streets. At that time, I was beaten black and blue by debt collectors, yet I still stood upright, looking at the poorly packaged item in Ji Changfeng's hand. I smiled faintly and slowly extended my hand. A flicker of triumphant satisfaction flashed in Ji Changfeng's eyes. Just as he was about to mock me, he was terrified by a sudden flash of cold light. The next second, the fruit knife in my hand was already deeply embedded in Gu Cha's waist. Crimson blood instantly stained her clothes. It was Gu Cha who took the blow for Ji Changfeng. Otherwise, Ji Changfeng's family jewels would have been chopped off by me on the spot. But it's not bad now either. I stabbed right through Gu Cha's right kidney. Then, amid Gu Cha's screams, the bodyguards waiting outside broke down the door and restrained me, my hands covered in blood. I gave Ji Changfeng a sickly smile, which scared him so much he wet himself. After that, I was pinned down on the operating table and had to donate a kidney to Gu Cha. Now that everything is back to square one, of course I have to thoroughly humiliate Ji Changfeng. I stopped the butler who was going to deliver the meal and had him replace the leftovers with dog food. Ji Changfeng felt deeply humiliated, but after starving for a few days, he still ate it. Then he got constipated. The low-quality dog food was full of carbohydrates and lacked any meat, causing his digestive condition to worsen day by day. I also mischievously added a strong laxative to the water he drank, kindly allowing him to flush everything out in one go. Everything I did was carried out right under Gu Cha's watchful eyes, but Gu Cha remained silent throughout, showing none of the deep affection she had for Ji Changfeng at the banquet. Mother sat leisurely sipping tea, thoughtfully asking the butler to give Ji Changfeng some vitamins, to prevent him from dying in the basement before he could repay our family's debt. I didn't torment Ji Changfeng for long before it was time to go to school, to nurture Gu Cha. My father specifically enrolled her in the same school as me. Gu Cha thought she had gained the upper hand and waved her student ID in front of me. I remained silent, but the next second, the butler brought Ji Changfeng up and threw him in front of Gu Cha. I smiled as I glanced at Ji Changfeng, who was slumped on the floor, then said to Gu Cha, "Now, only one of you and Ji Changfeng can go to school. The choice is yours. Either you go to school, and Ji Changfeng goes to the White Horse Club, or Ji Changfeng goes to school, and you stay home to watch the house." After speaking, I smiled and looked at Gu Cha sitting to the side. Ji Changfeng, who had been half squinting, suddenly looked up upon hearing what I said. His eyes filled with a hint of urgency as he said, "Cha-cha, let me go to school. I want to go to school. I have 1 year left before the college entrance exam, and I can get into Beijing University. I'll take care of you then. With grades this poor, going to school would be a waste of time." As soon as the words were spoken, Gu Cha's expression changed. Ji Changfeng realized he had spoken out of turn and hurriedly shut his mouth. Yet he still looked at Gu Cha with an expectant expression. I smiled warmly at Gu Cha, waiting for her to speak. Gu Cha bit her lip, taking a long moment before she slowly began, "Brother, I'm sorry, you're so smart. You'll definitely pass the adult college entrance exam." After saying that, Gu Cha pulled her hand out of Ji Changfeng's grasp, turned around, and hurriedly went upstairs. Ji Changfeng was stunned for a moment, and as soon as he realized what had happened, he immediately started cursing loudly. I propped my chin on my hand, watching Ji Changfeng hurl the most vicious insults at his former lover. This is the love between the male and female leads in a redemption story. Two selfish individuals, standing on the moral high ground, generously giving away what belongs to others, ultimately stepping over the bodies of the innocent to live happily ever after. This is the story of redemption. The once inseparable childhood sweethearts in the redemption story were torn apart by just a few words from me. Hypocritical and fragile feelings can never withstand the test. Ji Changfeng was taken to the club, while Gu Cha went to school with me. However, even with her father's support, Gu Cha was still looked down upon at school. In my previous life, when Gu Cha transferred to our school, the wealthy families in the class looked down on this illegitimate daughter. As a result, a few arrogant young masters and ladies even mocked her a few times. Later, when Ji Changfeng became successful, he dealt with each of them one by one. I watched as Gu Cha, just like in her previous life, dressed up meticulously before heading to school. She thought her status was noble and that everyone would approach her to talk, out of respect for the Gu family. Who would have thought that the young masters and ladies of wealthy families, being proud and arrogant, would all look down on the illegitimate daughter, and not a single person approached her all morning. In her previous life, Ji Changfeng could still look after her a bit in class, but in this life, she was left alone in the classroom to face the awkwardness by herself. Actually, the problem was quite simple. As the eldest daughter of the Gu family and a major shareholder holding 30% of the family's assets, I am already the undisputed heir to the Gu family. Now, with the sudden appearance of an illegitimate daughter who lacks both status and legitimacy, there seems to be no need to establish a friendly relationship. Moreover, my dismissive attitude toward the illegitimate daughter has made Gu Cha's life at school quite difficult. Most wealthy families are involved in business, so to accommodate the students in the experimental class, the school, I specifically set aside a few classes to teach basic economics knowledge. The students in the experimental class all come from wealthy families and have been exposed to this kind of knowledge since childhood, so they can basically handle it with ease. As a result, their group assignments are completed to an extremely high standard. However, Gu Cha is different. She grew up in the suburbs, and her academic performance isn't good either. Now, without the cheat code of Ji Changfeng, learning has become even more difficult. Everyone is aware of Gu Cha's ability level. So no one wants her for group assignments. The teacher had no choice but to randomly assign her to a group that was short on members. The selected group, resigned to their bad luck, could only assign her the simplest task, but she couldn't even handle the simplest tasks. So during the class presentation of the group project, the teacher listened to their work with a frown, and mercilessly gave them the lowest score. In the advanced class, group projects were also part of the final grade. So Gu Cha's group members all looked gloomy. The leading Miss Li couldn't hold back her anger and made a few sarcastic remarks, but Gu Cha, with reddened eyes, retorted, "I grew up as a commoner, so naturally I can't compare to you young ladies. Besides, this is my first time doing it, so you should give me a chance to make mistakes." As soon as she finished speaking, the young masters and ladies in the crowd burst into mocking laughter. Does Gu Cha really think she's something special? Miss Li, who comes from a prominent Shangxi merchant family and has been immersed in the family business since childhood, couldn't help but laugh out loud on the spot. Gu Cha, who do you think you are? Do you realize that if this group project were a corporate bid, your attitude would have already cost us the deal? If you make a mistake, you must face the consequences. I'm not your mother. I have no obligation to accommodate you or give you room for error. After saying this, I, sitting beside Miss Li, nodded in agreement, then looked at Gu Cha, who was standing dumbfounded in her seat, with a faint, ambiguous smile. Miss Li added with a hint of sarcasm, "If you can't fit into a circle, don't force it. Is it really worth making yourself look like a clown?" Scattered laughter echoed around. Gu Cha's face turned pale and then flushed with embarrassment. In the end, she stood up in a fluster and ran out of the classroom in tears. For a ticking time bomb like Gu Cha, the best approach is to eliminate her as quickly as possible. I've wanted to do this for a long time, but after all the suffering I endured in my past life, letting Gu Cha die easily would be far too lenient on her. What I want is for these two self-righteous individuals to willingly sink into the mire, and then be crushed by me when they're on the brink of death, in order to gain her father's approval. Gu Cha never mentioned the grievances she suffered at school when she returned home, and even claimed that she was very popular and well-liked by her classmates. I, however, did not argue, simply sitting aside to eat. Without Ji Changfeng, Gu Cha had neither academic achievements nor abilities. I have once again made my stance towards Gu Cha clear at school, so she is now firmly in my grasp, and can't stir up any trouble. What's more important now is Ji Changfeng. In my memories from my past life, Ji Changfeng had an exceptional talent for business. After entering the capital university system for further study, he made even greater progress, so much so that he and Gu Cha joined forces and took over the Gu family in just half a year. So now, even if Ji Changfeng doesn't attend high school anymore, given his business talent, I'm still worried that he might stir up some trouble at the White Horse Club. So on the second day after he entered the club, I had the madam inside hint to Ji Changfeng that if Ji Changfeng met the performance targets, she would send him to become an internet celebrity, freeing him from my control. This madam is considered a small leader in the MCN industry. He also has quite a few fans online. Therefore, after his persuasion, Ji Changfeng truly believed it without a doubt, keeping Ji Changfeng trapped in the mindset of a wage worker for a short period of time, giving me enough time to expand my business empire. As long as Ji Changfeng misses the short-lived opportunity of just a few years, he will be completely unable to turn things around. In order to break free from my control, Ji Changfeng couldn't wait to start working as soon as he recovered his health at the White Horse Club. To ensure he stays here for the long term, the clients I initially sent over were all young and good-looking. Ji Changfeng found that the work wasn't as unbearable as he had imagined, so he settled in for the time being. When the madam reported the work to me, hearing that the domineering CEO, who could turn the world upside down in my past life, was willingly working as a male escort, I burst out laughing on the spot. After the coming-of-age ceremony, my mother gradually introduced me to the daily operations of the company. When my father saw that the inheritance rights were about to smoothly transition to the new heir, completely red-eyed, watching my father's increasingly unstable mental state at the dining table, I smiled and approved another document. I can understand his thoughts. The sky-high fortune slipped away due to his own incompetence, and I can only survive at my wife's feet. This is simply an insult to his dignity as a real man. Therefore, he worked even harder to promote Gu Cha. He frequently took Gu Cha to business events. He even let Gu Cha appear in front of the media, putting on a show of deep father-daughter affection. For a time, in the eyes of outsiders, Gu Cha gradually became the most promising heir of the Gu family. Only the young masters and ladies who spent their days with me went about their own business, completely unaffected by the public opinion. After all, to them, appearances are just a facade, while equity is the real backbone. Taking advantage of the momentum her father had created for her, Gu Cha promptly registered a social media account, and began sharing her daily life as a socialite on Zaya Hongshu. As expected, her luxurious and refined lifestyle quickly attracted a lot of attention. A constant stream of luxury goods flowed into Gu Cha's room, the latest season's haute couture, limited edition bags and accessories. Whenever Gu Cha wanted to film a video, her mother would secretly have the butler deliver them to her. After all, a vain-minded illegitimate daughter is much easier to deal with than an ambitious troublemaker, and Gu Cha also changed from her original pure image, applying more refined makeup. The Gu family's luxury car picks up and drops off Gu Cha to and from school, and many fans gradually started waiting at the school gate. The young masters and ladies of wealthy families are most annoyed by things that disturb their peace and quiet, so seeing Gu Cha being so noisy and flashy, even with the Gu family backing her up, they have openly and covertly mocked her more than once. As the heir of the Gu family, I avoided her spotlight during Gu Cha's most glorious days, always waiting until she had left before returning home. At that time, the platform was hosting a gala and had specially invited Gu Cha as a guest of honor to attend. Gu Cha wore a white gown, exuding a gentle and refined charm from head to toe. After all, she was the heroine of her previous life. The moment she made her appearance, photos of her were taken and posted online, immediately causing a huge uproar. Someone dug up photos of me attending the commercial ribbon-cutting ceremony of a subsidiary of the Gu Corporation. Soon, people began comparing me and Gu Cha. Both at the age of 19, I was already dressed in a custom-made suit, standing beside my mother with a smile, delivering a speech on behalf of the board of directors. Meanwhile, Gu Cha stood on the red carpet in a marriageable style, greeting others with a gentle smile. The contrast between us was instantly clear. Everyone knows that the second daughter of the Gu family, Gu Cha, is nothing more than a pretty face. The true power behind the Gu family is likely the eldest daughter, Gu Pan. However, these rumors were quickly managed by public relations. Thanks to this event, Gu Cha gained countless followers on social media. After the event ended and we returned home, my father praised Gu Cha in front of my mother and me, saying that Gu Cha truly lived up to being a daughter of the Gu family, and her abilities were simply beyond doubt. My mother and I sat across from each other, exchanging a glance, both of us looking speechless. Indeed, a family's ancestral graves can't keep smoking forever. The older generation of the Gu family worked diligently and built up a family fortune, but when it came to their children, they ended up with such an idiot. Gu Cha has gained some fans and, thinking she's exceptionally talented, actually dares to challenge me. The day after the event ended, school was on break, and I was in the greenhouse cutting and arranging flowers. The greenhouse door was suddenly kicked open, and Gu Cha stood at the entrance, dressed in designer brands. I glanced at her without a hint of surprise, my hands still moving steadily. If you have something to say, say it. If not, get lost. Gu Cha sneered and strode over to me. He knocked over the vase I had placed on the table in one swift motion. I set down the freshly trimmed roses and looked up with a faint, mocking smile. Gu Cha, are your nerves getting too loose? Do you need me to tighten them for you? Have you forgotten how you knelt on the ground like a dog, begging me? How dare you speak to me like this now? Gu Cha had been pampered since childhood and had never been humiliated like this before, instantly exploding on the spot, furious. She raised her hand to hit me, but her hand was caught in midair as I firmly grabbed it. I sneered and slapped her across the face with my other hand. Gu Cha had just had some fillers done on her face, and it hasn't passed the recovery period yet, so her face is fragile and sensitive right now. Now, after I slapped her, her face immediately turned red and swollen. Gu Cha let out a strange cry, covered her face, and stepped back, only to trip and fall, landing right in a flower pot. My face instantly darkened. That was the iris I had painstakingly cultivated in soil. For this little thing, I even held my nose and fertilized it with manure. Now it's all ruined by Gu Cha's butt. I quickly stood up and pulled Gu Cha out of the flower pot, only to see the flower seedling that had already been broken by her sitting on it. Looking at this dead woman in front of me, whose fate clashes with mine, I became even more furious. I immediately slapped Gu Cha twice more. After finishing, I was still seething with anger, so I simply grabbed her disheveled hair, forcing her to look up and meet my gaze. Staring at Gu Cha's swollen face before me, I narrowed my eyes, my gaze icy cold. Do you really think that just because you've attended a couple of events, you can challenge me? I'm telling you, at most, you're just a thing for selling smiles. If I'm happy, I'll give you a bite to eat, but if you cross me, just you wait and see. After saying that, I flung Gu Cha aside and strode out of the flower room. Just the day after Gu Cha provoked me, on the platform that invited her to the evening party, all the trending topics about her vanished on the spot. Even the traffic directed to her was cut by more than half. After all, my family holds shares in that platform. As a capital investor, I have the authority to target this blogger who has only a few 100,000 followers. Meanwhile, all the businesses that had sought to collaborate with Gu Cha have backed out. Those who had signed contracts would rather pay the penalty than let Gu Cha showcase their products on camera. When my secretary reported this to me, I was reviewing the summer business report of the branch company. Hearing this, she nodded with a smile and told her to keep an eye on Gu Cha, making sure she didn't cause any more trouble. Gu Cha's freshly done face was swollen again after I hit her. And now the only makeup brand she's collaborating with focuses on repairing damage, so she appeared barefaced, doing a product review. To ensure sales, the brand invited her into the live stream to sell products alongside the staff. At first, Gu Cha was unwilling, as she believed she was destined to become a big star in the entertainment industry in the future. In her view, live streaming sales were too low-class and completely unrelated to her world. But the brand she was in contact with strongly advised against it, and even offered an invitation fee that was nearly sky-high. Just as Gu Cha was about to grit her teeth and refuse, her mother cut off her supply of luxury goods. Gu Cha suddenly lost the capital to shoot videos. There was simply no material to film. She could only keep posting things she had shot before. But everyone was asking in the comments about the latest season's luxury ready-to-wear reviews. Some fans even mocked her, wondering if she had been disciplined by her sister and couldn't afford new clothes. In the past, Gu Cha's flashy wealth videos had made her many enemies. Now that she's in trouble, they've all come out to criticize her. Even under her latest video, the top comment is mocking her. Watching the negative reviews sprouting like bamboo shoots after rain and the maxed-out credit cards, Gu Cha still refused to take that low-value advertisement and had no choice but to turn to her father. When my assistant came to report to me, I slammed the document I was reviewing onto the desk and let out a cold laugh. That was the only unprofitable subsidiary of the Gu family in the autumn. It is also the only enterprise that my father has ever been involved in managing, and it perfectly demonstrates the wisdom of my grandfather's choice of my mother as the successor. It was clearly in a booming industry, a business that could have thrived with just a little effort, yet it managed to operate at a loss, nearly driving it to bankruptcy. As the company's boss, the father does not reflect on his own issues, but instead wants to file a report to fire the only vice president who is actually working in the company. The mother rejected his request outright, and warned him that if he dares to cause trouble again, she will kick him out. The mother's response was passed down through the layers. The father's superiors all saw the mother's open dissatisfaction with him. The father felt deeply humiliated, but there was nothing he could do, and he was already seething with anger. Now, with Gu Cha going to see him, it was like walking right into the line of fire. In the study, father scolded Gu Cha harshly for coming to ask for money. His voice was so loud that even I, sitting downstairs drinking tea, could hear it. Gu Cha came downstairs in a sorry state, only to see me leisurely sipping my tea. She was about to say something but then remembered the beating she had received in the greenhouse, so she held back her words again and again. Finally, she turned and left, seeing the increasing number of negative comments about her online and her father's unwillingness to help. Gu Cha had no choice but to grit her teeth and accept the offer to host a live streaming sales event. It was right in the middle of final exams, and I had just returned home after a long day at school, watching Gu Cha, who was sitting on the first floor doing her makeup, preparing to take a car to the company for a live broadcast. I suddenly spoke up. "Have you used the product you're going to promote?" Hearing my voice, Gu Cha abruptly looked up, only to see my half-smiling expression. "Just thinking about how I'm about to go make money." Gu Cha instantly straightened her back, and her words became more forceful. "What nonsense are you talking? How could I possibly use such cheap stuff on my face? I wouldn't dare use these things that only poor people use." I raised an eyebrow but said nothing more, simply turning to leave. I've done my duty by warning Gu Cha this far. Now that she's bringing trouble upon herself, it has nothing to do with me. When evening came, I finished my homework early and went downstairs. My mother was waiting in the small garden. The butler brought a tablet and opened the live stream where Gu Cha was. I leaned against my mother with a smile. "Mom, I'm here to invite you to watch the trap I've set." Mother smiled and nodded, patting me as I leaned on her shoulder. Gu Cha, thanks to her existing fan base, had a considerable number of viewers when she first started her live stream. Watching the products in the live stream sell out one by one, Gu Cha couldn't hide the joy on her face. After all, she gets a commission from tonight's live stream. The more she sells, the more she earns. By 10 p.m., the number of viewers in the live stream had peaked. Just as Gu Cha was about to add another product link, a comment under the live stream caught her eye. $79 a bottle. Why is it so expensive? A few more people chimed in below, which immediately displeased Gu Cha. Frowning, she scolded in front of the several million people in the live stream. $79 is still expensive. It's been this price all these years. Instead of wasting time, you should reflect on whether you've been working hard all these years and why your salary hasn't increased. After saying this, Gu Cha ignored her stunned assistant, tossed her well-maintained hair, and muttered a few unpleasant words. Poor devils. After saying that, she rolled her eyes and proceeded to add the link to the live stream. With the staff's intervention, the comments gradually lost their dissenting voices, returning to a scene of thriving prosperity. My mother was so perceptive that she immediately knew what I was up to and locked eyes with me right away. I smiled slightly and nodded to her. Then I called the public relations department under the Gu group, telling them to get to work. Within half an hour, hashtag the Gu family's young lady 79 hashtag quickly became a trending topic. The marketing accounts we collaborated with quickly followed up, posting what Gu Cha said during the live stream. This matter touches on the most sensitive issue of class differences that has been on everyone's mind lately. On one side is a young lady from a wealthy family, whose assets may be in the billions, and on the other side are the ordinary people who can change part of their situation with just 79. The comparison between the two is even more shocking. Gu Cha remained completely unaware, still happily selling her cosmetics before the public opinion erupted. Meanwhile, my public relations department was already on high alert, just waiting for my command tomorrow to sacrifice Gu Cha and the brand she endorses, in order to bring this illegitimate daughter down from her pedestal. After Gu Cha finished her live stream, the first wave of public opinion had just passed, and marketing accounts had also posted videos on various major platforms. Gradually, more people began to see her actions. Her mother had gone to sleep right after Gu Cha ended her live stream. Meanwhile, I rushed to the Gu Corporation to meet with the head of the public relations department and began discussing this public opinion battle. My father's incompetence led my mother to spend over a decade purging the entire group, and now the internal operations of the group are entirely under my mother's control. Without her orders, no one would dare leak any information to my father or Gu Cha. In just one night, Gu Cha's own verbal missteps, combined with the push from a professional public opinion team, made 79 a genuine social hot topic. The very next day, both the general netizens and the upper echelons of the capital reached a consensus that Gu Cha was a fool. The views of the general netizens were beyond doubt. The upper class's comments on Gu Cha were even more cutting. in the group chat of the city's second-generation rich kids, my desk mate, Miss Lee, gave a sharp critique of Gu Cha. Gu Cha is just a nouveau riche who wants to tell the whole world how wealthy she is, and she's the kind of person who, after climbing up herself, will mock those still at the bottom. Online discussions about Gu Cha are endless, and there has been a spontaneous boycott of the skincare products she recommended. Meanwhile, a consumer has come forward, claiming that the skincare brand caused her face to break out, and accused Gu Cha of profiting from others' suffering, making unethical money by deceiving her trusting fans. To prove she wasn't lying, the consumer posted several videos in a row, attached are detailed comparison images to prove that I was genuinely victimized. The instigator, Gu Cha, woke up the next morning to see the public opinion had escalated to this extent, and was so frightened that she didn't dare go to school, simply taking leave and staying at home. Meanwhile, I continued to attend school as usual, diligently preparing for the final exams. Gu Cha, backed by the Gu family, had reporters who saw her unwilling to come forward and wanted to bypass her to interview me, but they were all turned away by my mother, so my life wasn't really affected. Seeing her fans drop one after another and her reputation on the verge of ruin, Gu Cha, with no other options, turned to her father, hoping he would step in and hire a PR team to handle the crisis for her. But she overestimated her father, having been a good-for-nothing for nearly 40 years. He was almost completely clueless about family affairs and could hardly find her a suitable public relations team. Gu Cha had no choice but to save herself. She posted an apology video on her account, and it did get some response. Some who idolize capitalists defended her, saying Gu Cha is still a young girl and expressing sympathy for her, and so on. There were even those who put themselves in Gu Cha's shoes, saying that Gu Cha is a wealthy heiress. It's only natural to think 79 yuan is too little, and everyone shouldn't be too harsh on her, and so on. Just as public opinion was about to take a turn for the better, I had the PR department drop another bombshell, revealing that Gu Cha is an illegitimate daughter. Originally, when father brought Gu Cha along for publicity, he deliberately concealed her true identity as an illegitimate child, misleading everyone into thinking that Gu Cha was the second daughter born to mother, the legitimate young lady of the Gu family. Therefore, when the marketing accounts broke the news, everyone initially refused to believe it. It turned out that the blogger went on to reveal, saying that before Gu Cha was taken back to the Gu family, she also came from an ordinary background, attending a very average high school in the suburbs of Beijing, with grades at the bottom of the class, and was even a bit of a troublemaker. And the whistleblower herself is the girl who was bullied by Gu Cha at school. She said she couldn't stand seeing the person who bullied her get away without paying any price and even enter a wealthy family, even looking down on ordinary people like her. Afterward, she also released several photos of Gu Cha from her previous high school. In the photo, Gu Cha is far from the refined young lady she appears to be in the video, looking more like a low-class troublemaker, staring defiantly at the camera. The comments on the expose post are quite entertaining. Oh, so she's an illegitimate child. No wonder her mouth is so foul. Wasn't she also from a humble background? What gives her the right to look down on us? This is hilarious. Now, all those who were defending her should come out and speak up. They claimed she grew up in a wealthy family, but this really slaps those sycophants in the face. With that, the fans who had been speaking up for Gu Cha were immediately proven wrong and quietly deleted their comments. Gu Cha became the target of mockery across the entire internet. The mother stepped in at the right moment, using Gu Cha's tarnishing of the Gu family's corporate image as a reason to confiscate and deactivate her social media accounts. Gu Cha was forced to return to school, but she simply didn't have the mind for studying. Plus, I hadn't reviewed at all, so my final exam results were a complete mess. And the one who started it all, my useless father, vanished without a trace while my mother was dealing with Gu Cha. After the final exams ended, the students in my class performed quite well overall. I took the initiative to treat everyone and invited them out for some fun. Gu Cha originally didn't want to attend, but I forced her to come along. After all, there was a good show waiting for her at the bar. The bar I booked is an asset under the Gu family's holdings. So when I brought people over, the bar staff welcomed us with great enthusiasm. After 3 rounds of drinks, I gave a signal to the waiter standing nearby. The waiter understood and immediately went to make preparations. Then I clapped my hands to get everyone's attention. Everyone has been working hard for several months. Today, the bar has arranged a male model troupe for a fashion show. Please remember to show your support. After saying that, the waiter immediately brought people up. All of them were handsome guys over 180 centimeters tall, with long legs and various styles. The one at the front was particularly eye-catching. I sat in the audience and secretly sighed. As expected of the male lead, even as a male escort, he still shines so brightly, and sitting in the corner, Gu Cha's expression completely changed. She saw Ji Changfeng, who had completely changed from the cold, gloomy academic genius she remembered, standing among the male models in revealing clothes, with a greasy smile on his handsome face. He even patted his underwear with sponge to appear more masculine. Miss Lee sat frowning on the side, glanced at the man on stage who was striking poses, and whispered in my ear, "When did you start liking such greasy types?" I shook my head, a meaningful smile on my face. After the male model runway show ended, I said to Miss Lee in front of everyone, "Do you remember the man at my coming-of-age ceremony? The one I supported for 5 years? Who forced me to accept his illegitimate daughter into the family?" Gu Cha's face immediately darkened, and she glared fiercely at me. Then, I continued calmly, "Gu Cha, your benefactor is on the stage. Aren't you going to greet him?" After saying that, I turned to look at Ji Changfeng on the stage. Ji Changfeng was also looking at Gu Cha, and I knew what he was thinking. He wanted Gu Cha to help him, to get him out of the club. After all, a wealthy woman in her late 40s had recently taken a liking to him and was aggressively pursuing him, making it impossible for him to break free. Gu Cha's expression stiffened, and her gaze toward Ji Changfeng was filled with indifference as she said, "I don't know him." Ji Changfeng's eyes immediately dimmed, the corners of my lips lifted slightly, and I didn't even bother to hide the delight in my eyes. I let them meet, to confirm that there is not a trace of affection left between this male and female lead, so they won't rekindle their old feelings and team up against me like they did in my previous life. The event proceeded as usual, but none of the male models caught our eye, so we had to leave early. Just as I was about to leave, chaos suddenly erupted backstage. According to the waiter, the top male model was secretly walking the runway behind his sugar daddy's back. Now the sugar daddy had found out and was rushing to the bar to take that pretty boy back and give him a good lesson. I tried my best to hold back my laughter and nodded to show I understood. Gu Cha was publicly humiliated and returned to the Gu family in a days ahead of time. Ji Changfeng was kept by a wealthy woman, and that sugar mommy had a terrible track record. The male models she kept either died or were injured. Therefore, Ji Changfeng's fate would not be too good. As for the female lead, Gu Cha, I will make sure she lives forever, healthy and well. After all, from the transplant surgery in my previous life, I know that the compatibility between me and Gu Cha is astonishingly high. According to the author's setting, even the most demanding organs have an extremely high match rate between us. In my previous life, this setting cost me my life. But in this life, Gu Cha has become my safest incubator. From now on, she will live safely and healthily under my protection. The controversy surrounding Gu Cha has completely passed, and Gu Cha, as a once popular internet celebrity, has completely disappeared from the public eye. The sun in the capital rises as usual, and the Gu family still stands tall under the sunlight, and as the future head of the Gu family, after being reborn, I broke free from the control of the plot. The future is bright in every way. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I transmigrated into a book as the daughter of the nanny serving the malicious female supporting character, the young lady. On the first day of my transmigration, the young lady brutally struck my face with a diamond. "You have insulted my character with money once again." Suffering such humiliation, I feel truly refreshed and invigorated, clinging to the young lady's leg. I solemnly swear, I, Lin Jin Duo, vow to protect the young lady with my life. What does it matter if I end up being overthrown by the male and female leads, left to wander the streets with an uncertain fate? I will never allow anyone to harm my iron rice bowl. I died, impoverished and alone, succumbing to illness in a rented basement, just as I closed my eyes and embraced the relief of death. A dull pain suddenly struck my forehead, followed by a sharp, clear sound exploding in my ear. Shen Weiran is deliberately targeting me, insisting on taking what's mine. Opening my eyes, I found myself in a princess bedroom that could only appear in a Mary Sue idol drama. In the luxurious bedroom's open-plan space, a beautiful girl who radiated, "I'm super rich," in every way was tearing the place apart, smashing anything in sight. Thud, the object that had struck my forehead fell to the ground. I took a closer look and was nearly blinded. It was a dazzling diamond bracelet. The kind that could buy 10 of me. The next second, a crystal ornament with a gold rim came flying toward me. To avoid being smashed to death, I quickly fled for my life. In that moment of life and death, my brain finally finished loading, and a memory that didn't belong to me was downloaded. I think I've transmigrated into a book, specifically a cheesy novel called The Down and Out Boy Falls in Love with the Perfect Heiress. I am the daughter of the nanny working for the villainous Chu Karu. And I am her number one lackey. In short, the current situation is that Chu, a sophomore in high school, has just had her performance at the school festival replaced by her arch-rival Shen Weiran, and she is absolutely furious. As I watched an ugly but very expensive bag flying toward me, I pounced on it like a hungry tiger, grabbed the luxury item, and then threw myself heavily in front of Chu Karu. She just wants to show off. She's in the choir. But she thinks there are too many people in the choir, and a solo dance performance would be more impressive. She's just vain, I shouted at the top of my lungs, and Chu Karu, who was about to smash the jade bracelet in her hand against my forehead, stopped. Perhaps I had hit a nerve with the young lady, as she finally let out a sigh of relief. Exactly, so vain. It's just a lousy solo dance. I don't want it anymore. Finally, having vented enough of her temper, Miss Chu looked at me, curled up and writhing on the ground, and the red mark on my forehead from being hit by the diamond bracelet. Did your face get hit or not? Chu Karu walked over to me, squatted down, and poked my forehead with her finger. In the original story, Chu Karu was described as a bad woman who often insulted and beat even her own lackeys, which eventually led to her lackey, Lin Jin Duo, actively betraying her and joining forces with the male and female leads to take revenge. I suddenly felt a bit scared, afraid that the unpredictable young lady might stomp on me and crush me. I've transferred 8,000 to you, go to the hospital and get a proper checkup, don't ruin your face. I hate ugly people. The young lady took out her phone and casually sent me a transfer. I lay on the ground, completely bewildered. Chu Karu glanced at my clothes again, rolled her eyes in disdain, and said, I'll transfer you another 10,000, go buy some decent clothes to wear. Don't dress like a jungle hillbilly. I hate country bumpkins too. I felt like she was insulting me, but I glanced at the message on my phone and somehow couldn't muster any anger. I always feel like the young lady's scolding is quite justified, and that bracelet, it's stained with the grease from your face, so disgusting. You can have it. After transferring the money, Chu Karu stepped back a bit in disgust. Clean up the room for me, and don't tell my mom that I smashed things today. Clearly. It was a commanding tone, but I found it quite pleasing to the ear, because I used my phone to search for the market price of that bracelet, 6 figures. I took another look at the balance in my account, instantly feeling refreshed and invigorated. I sprang up like a carp and said with utmost respect, this old servant will go and take care of it right away. I remember that in this novel, the female lead, Shen Weiran, is a perfect young lady, exceptionally talented and academically outstanding. In contrast, the supporting female character, Chu Karu, is a useless beauty with nothing to offer except her face, scoring less than 250 points in the college entrance exam. It was also because she was competing with Shen Weiran for the male lead, Su Jun, causing all sorts of trouble and doing a bunch of foolish things. In the end, she was disgraced and driven out by the Chu family, and her whereabouts became unknown. As I cleaned up the messy bedroom, occasionally touching the expensive diamond bracelet in my pocket, my resolve grew stronger. How bad can a little girl who uses diamonds to hit people really be? I absolutely will not allow her to be ruined for life by a love-struck brain and the male and female leads. After tidying up the bedroom, I was about to go downstairs to report to the young lady, but before I could even step off the staircase, I heard the sound of an argument coming from the living room. If you were even half as outstanding as Shen Weiran, I wouldn't be embarrassed in public. I don't even dare to hope you could be like your brother. This voice was very sharp and efficient. It must be Chu Karu's mother, Mrs. Yi. The Chu couple lived separately in 2 different countries. Her father had taken her brother to manage overseas business, and my original body's mother had followed them, leaving the poor young lady and the stern Ms. Yi behind. The mother and daughter argued every day. I studied, but it's already a struggle for me to stay in 10th place. Not everyone can be first in class. Chu Karu felt very wronged. If others can do it, why can't you? It proves you're not putting in enough effort. Ms. Yi refused to back down. I hid upstairs, not daring to go down. Until Yi grew tired of scolding and left with the crisp sound of her high heels. To fulfill my role as a loyal sidekick, I quickly rushed to the kitchen, poured a glass of orange juice for Chukaru, and approached her with great concern. "Miss, you haven't eaten much all afternoon. At least have a drink to avoid low blood sugar." Chukaru, who was sobbing on the sofa, ignored me. She tapped furiously on her phone and even sent a voice message in the end. "Zhang Ao, I'm so sad. Could you go for a walk with me tomorrow? I really feel so suffocated." I stood to the side holding my cup, frantically recalling the plot related to Chukaru. The book vaguely mentioned that Chukaru started dating early in her first year of high school and had a rather failed first love. She went out on a date with that boy, got taken advantage of, and was almost beaten up. At this moment, Zhang Yao also sent back a voice message, perhaps not intending to avoid suspicion. Chukaru's phone volume wasn't turned down very low. I could just hear it. "All right. Who else could indulge your spoiled princess temper besides me? Your aunt is right, you really aren't outstanding enough, but of course, I still like you just the way you are." I frowned, realizing something wasn't quite right. Why did this sound so off? Isn't this my wealthy benefactress from the KTV? Chukaru remained completely unaware. Still lost in her sorrow. "I know I'm terrible like this, but what can I do? No one at home likes me, and no one cares about me. You're the only one who can keep me company." I tried my best to keep a low profile, hoping to gather more information. I had been wondering why Chukaru was such an extreme romantic. In the novel, she was even willing to help the male lead, Sujun, secure resources by accompanying others for drinks, nearly getting assaulted in the process. I think I understand now. She lacks love and confidence, with a strict mother, an absent father, and outstanding older brothers and peers. She was like an abandoned child, ignored by everyone. No wonder she would run off with anyone who showed her a little kindness. "Miss, if you go on a date tomorrow, take me with you. That way, if Madam asks, you'll have an explanation." Once again, I brought the orange juice to her and handed her a wet wipe. Chukaru looked at me with teary eyes and nodded in agreement. What I hate most in this life are those scumbags who use PUA tactics. I helped Chukaru carry her bag to the date spot. That guy named Zhang Ao looked like he was only in his third year of high school, resembling a bloated kappa. Standing next to Chukaru, he made my vision go dark. The first thing the kappa said was, "You've gained weight again. Your legs are thicker than mine now. You must be over 110 pounds. Right, if you get any heavier, I won't be able to carry you anymore." Chukaru had a great figure, healthy, full, and very youthful. The young lady also had excellent taste in clothing, putting together outfits that were simply captivating. He actually thinks such a beautiful girl is fat. Seeing the growing self-doubt in Chukaru's eyes, I suddenly snorted coldly. "A needle is a needle. It makes everything look thick." Upon hearing this, Zhang Ao instantly became arrogant. "Who gave you the right to speak? You lackey. It seems my reputation has spread quite far." "Am I a lackey? Then I won't speak to a scrawny dog either. If you're a lackey, you're not much thicker." I gave him a disdainful look, and Chukaru nudged me with her elbow, transferring a large sum of money to me. "Go have fun on your own." I was dismissed as a third wheel, but I couldn't hand over my iron rice bowl to a kappa, because I just recalled another crucial point. The novel says that Chukaru and the male lead, Sujun, first met through a heroic rescue. A moment of salvation during Chukaru's most desperate time, if it happens to be today. Why not let me be the one to provide that salvation? Loyalty to my master could lead to a promotion and a raise. This way, my emotionally deprived young mistress won't get caught up in the conflicts between the male and female leads. Following Chukaru and Zhang Ao all the way, I felt like a spy, and along the way, I noticed a rather handsome guy handing out flyers. He took the initiative to strike up a conversation with Chukaru, his eyes repeatedly scanning her outfit. "That guy has curly hair. Could he be the male lead?" Hiding behind the flower bed, I began to have a bad feeling. "You dare to act like a hooligan in broad daylight." Just as I predicted, today is likely the moment when Chukaru's failed romance unfolds and the male lead gets his chance to be the hero saving the damsel in distress. But they won't get the chance. I bought a hardcover Oxford dictionary from a roadside bookstore and followed Zhang and the other two into a corner. When that creep grabbed Chukaru and tried to do something inappropriate, I let out a roar that shook my brain, raised the dictionary, and charged forward. This is the power of knowledge purifying you, you pervert. Take that. The weight of the Oxford Dictionary is reassuring. Zhang Ao was dazed but not brain damaged by the hit. My strength was just right. Chu Kara clutched her torn collar, wanting to help but not knowing how. And even got knocked to the ground by my butt in the chaos of the fight. Are you hurt? A pleasant, gentle voice echoed through this corner. I glanced out of the corner of my eye. Sure enough, it was that handsome curly-haired guy. Oh no, he's the male lead. No matter how much I tried to guard against it, he still found a way in. In my anger, I used too much force, and Zhang Ao let out a cry before instantly falling into a deep sleep. What are you trying to do? I held up the dictionary. Confronting the male lead, Su Zhen had a handsome face, and when he smiled, he was very approachable. He helped Chu Kara stand up, then very gentlemanly took a step back. I just thought that guy looked a bit suspicious, so I followed to make sure there was no danger. Surprisingly, Chu Kara remained quite composed and wasn't so frightened that she lost her voice. Thank you, my friend arrived just in time, so everything's fine. I suddenly felt a bit excited. Hee, the young lady said I'm her friend. After a polite smile, Chu Kara rushed straight to Zhang Ao, who was still dazed, and gave him a hard slap. You jerk, I trusted you so much. What did I do wrong? And you even threatened to beat me to death. After finishing, I very understandingly handed her a wet wipe to clean her hands, then took out my phone and started calling the police. Su Zhen wanted to come over and take a look, but he was blocked by me and the dictionary and couldn't succeed. So what if it was their first encounter? This time, he wasn't Chu Kara's hero in shining armor, so he probably wouldn't make her fall head over heels in love, right? Thanks to my excellent performance today, I successfully earned some favor in front of my beautiful boss. The blow must have been quite heavy, as Chu Kara remained somewhat silent the whole way. It wasn't until we got home that she finally put her hands on her hips and looked at me. When did you realize Zhang Ao was up to no good? I patted my big dictionary and casually made something up. He just didn't seem like a good person. He was Pua and Jiu. Chu Kara blinked in confusion. What is Pua? I waved the dictionary around, gesturing animatedly. You're clearly beautiful, but he says you're fat and unattractive. You're clearly great, but he puts you down, then emphasizes that only he likes you, making you feel guilty and dependent on him. That's Pua. Chu Kara sat on the sofa, staring at me. Am I really that good? I nodded. Of course, you only use diamonds to hit people. How bad can you be? No, I'm not good. I'm not like my brother and Shen Weiran, who are always the top students, no matter how hard I study. It's useless. I never make any progress. Chu Kara answered me very seriously. I stroked my chin, recalling the article I had read before transmigrating into the book. Miss, you may not be good at those exams, but you must have your own strengths, right? If you are a tree, you won't bloom roses. Is there something you like and are good at? I feel like I'm being too sentimental. I'm sure I'll receive a big reward tonight. Chu Kara opened her mouth, as if recalling something. I've told them before that I like painting and making clothes for dolls, but they see it as a waste of time. The Chu family is a very traditional business tycoon household. They need someone like Chu Kara's eldest brother, a business genius, but in such a family, Chu Kara probably has no worries when it comes to learning anything. Suddenly, I felt a pang of sourness and couldn't help but scoff. Miss, with your allowance and freedom, even if you went to learn, would anyone even notice? Chu Kara, who had been frowning in worry, suddenly widened her eyes and clapped her hands excitedly. You're right, they don't even care about me. You're pretty smart. As she spoke, the young lady, who only knew how to express approval with money, tapped several zeros into the input field. I beamed with joy, watching the young lady go upstairs, then heard a loud slam of the door. The young lady's furious roar faintly drifted out from the bedroom. You spend my money and use my things, yet you dare treat me like this. You've repeated a year and are already an adult. You're done for. Standing downstairs with a cheerful smile, I hoped that when I went to clean up the bedroom later, the young lady might reward me with a little something extra. It must be said that Chu Kara's maliciousness in the novel may have accumulated gradually. For now, she's just a slightly spoiled little rich girl. The summer vacation of my sophomore year passed quickly, with my encouragement. Chu Kara really went to a very expensive art studio to start her new career. I couldn't help but sigh. Having money is really great, because I received the favor of the Chu family. I was also sent to the elite high school that Chu Karu and Shen Weiran attended, with the main task of taking care of my wealthy boss, Lin Jin Duo. I want milk tea. As soon as class ended, Chu Karu went to her locker to get her phone and transferred me 500 yuan for a 15 yuan cup of milk tea. Although I was tired from 2 consecutive classes, I wasn't going to turn down money, so I happily rushed out of the classroom. The milk tea must be wiped clean of water droplets, and the straw should be inserted before handing it to the young lady. The cookie bags in the desk must be neatly folded and accompanied by small chopsticks that won't dirty the hands. They say you're a lackey, and you really are one, being so eager to please. It's no secret that I'm the daughter of the housekeeper at Chu Karu's home. Seeing how eager I am to please, many people started mocking me. Chu Karu, we're all classmates here. You're being way too harsh on Lin Jin Duo. It's just bullying. I was unwrapping a lollipop for Chu Karu when a gentle and elegant beauty suddenly appeared beside me. Probably the only one who dares to speak to Chu Karu like that is the female lead, Shen Weiran. Chu Karu frowned and was about to speak when I suddenly stepped forward, righteous and stern. Karu has a tendency to have low blood sugar and needs to eat something promptly. I was able to attend such a great school thanks to her, so what's wrong with taking a little care of an old friend? Shen Weiran was somewhat surprised and gave me a smile. Of course, helping classmates is fine, but friendship isn't just about giving endlessly. Before she could finish her sentence, Chu Karu suddenly tugged at my sleeve. I bought you that bag you mentioned last time, one in each of the 7 color schemes, so you won't have to repeat a color all week. My eyes lit up. Could a bag bought by the boss be cheap? Whoever dares to stop me from seizing this sudden fortune, I'll beat them into Play-Doh. Perhaps my murderous intent was too strong, as Shen Weiran instinctively took a step back and dejectedly returned to her seat. Class, we have a new student joining us today. Just as self-study class began, the homeroom teacher suddenly pushed the door open, followed by a tall, thin boy with curly hair. I saw Chu Karu's eyes suddenly light up. It's him. What a coincidence. I was Chu Karu's desk mate, and I could whisper to her just by tilting my head. I gritted my teeth in frustration, wishing I had knocked Su Zhen out that day. I finally got the young lady back on the right track, and if anyone dares to lead her astray, I'll be furious. Su Zhen, you can go sit next to Shen Weiran. There's an empty seat there. The homeroom teacher, following the plot, placed the male and female leads together, while I kept a close eye on Chu Karu's face, afraid I might see a hint of jealousy. Why are you looking at me? Chu Karu glared at me. I rubbed my nose and said guiltily, because you're pretty, although I'm trying hard to change the plot. Striving to keep the young lady from self-destructing and ensuring she lives a long, prosperous life. But it seems some things just can't be changed. What a coincidence. It's you. Su Zhen took the initiative to strike up a conversation with Chu Karu while helping hand out assignments. He was quite talkative, able to get familiar with people in just a few sentences. Because I failed physics, I was standing in the hallway listening to the physics teacher's lecture, and I could only glare fiercely at this troublemaker. Chu Karu applied as an art student, so she could go to the art studio for self-study in the evening. Seeing how bored I was, she dragged me along on the way. Sitting in the audience, I watched Chu Karu's radiant expression and couldn't help but smile along. When the boss is in a good mood, the salary won't be lacking. You have the talent of Mao Yang himself, miss. You're the one heaven chases to feed. I've been cramming on the art of praise these past few days. Whenever Chu Karu paints, I compliment her, giving her more and more motivation. After all, in the first 16 years of her life, she only experienced belittlement and pressure. Sigh, that's how a person's confidence is built. Do you like this necklace? It's pure gold, with 4 styles. I'll buy them all for you. Chu Karu was so delighted by the praise that whenever she had free time, she would reward me, the great contributor, with all sorts of gifts. She eventually lost herself in my repeated exclamations of, "Boss, you're so generous." Everything was progressing toward a perfect situation, except for Su Zhen, that restless troublemaker, who would flirt with Shen Weiran one moment and bring candy to Chu Karu the next. I heard you have low blood sugar. This is really tasty. Want to try it? That deceptively youthful smiling face. The more I look at it, the more distorted it becomes. I even suspect that the intense animosity between Shen Weiran and Chu Karu later on was deliberately stirred up by this guy, Jin Duo. Would you like one? It's quite sweet. Chu Karu handed me a piece of candy. I gritted my teeth and forced a smile. No need. I'm afraid it'll give me a toothache, and my gaze just happened to catch Shen Weiran a few rows ahead, gripping the pen so tightly that her knuckles turned white. After delivering the candy, Su Zhan sat back down next to Shen Weiran, took out a thick all-English book from his backpack, and chatted with her with a smile. Chu Kara bit the candy into pieces, puffing out her cheeks as she looked at me. Jean Duo, what are you looking at? Chu Kara leaned in close to me, the candy still in her mouth. I handed her the tabloid I had collected today. I'm reading a story about an unfaithful man who was chopped into ketchup for cheating on multiple people at the same time, at least during her time at school. Chu Kara didn't go to provoke Shen Weiran as she did in the original story. In the original story, Chu Kara had no interest in studying and was solely focused on pleasing Su Zhan. Her grades couldn't even hold on to the top 10, and she ended up at the bottom, giving up on herself, although there has been a slight decline now, and it's a bit challenging to catch up after occasional training sessions away. It's not to the point where I can't even score 250 in the college entrance exam. For this reason, I breathed a long sigh of relief. At the beginning of senior year, the school organized a hiking trip. I remember in the original story, this was a turning point in the plot, because Chu Kara and Shen Weiran got into an argument on a staircase, and Shen Weiran was pushed down by her, breaking her left arm. The Chu family sent many large orders to the Shen family as an apology, which resulted in business losses. Chu Kara, who was already unpopular, was severely reprimanded. And most people at school also favored Shen Weiran, subjecting her to cold violence. This completed the final step in Chu Kara's transformation into a paranoid and malicious woman. Ultimately, Chu Kara in the original story got what she deserved, but this time, with my intervention, the young lady has been well behaved, doing nothing more than occasionally exchanging a few sharp words with Shen Weiran. No problem. No problem, the young lady and I were not in the same formation. She arrived at the destination a little earlier than I did, although I kept reassuring myself. I was still afraid of the forced execution of the plot. It was a small viewing platform with a nice view and fairly high steps. I climbed up from the side stairs, hiding myself among the plants. The voice that came through was Chu Kara's. You're really no fun. So what if I knew Su Zhan earlier? Don't get jealous over nothing. Shen Weiran replied unhappily. We're in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Shouldn't we both have self-respect and self-love? Chu Kara sneered. I've never gone looking for him. Why don't you go scold Su Zhan instead of blaming me? I silently gave a thumbs up in my heart. Good thing I've been showing Chu Kara some news about relationship disputes lately. You've been ambiguous all along. That's your problem too. You should have directly rejected him. I already scolded him until he left. Isn't that enough? What do you want me to do? Electrocute him? You're being unreasonable. I'm leaving. Chu Kara's patience had run out. Just as she was about to leave, Shen Weiran turned sideways to let her pass, but for some reason, her foot slipped, and she seemed on the verge of falling. Watch out on the stairs. Suddenly, Lin Jinduo sprang out from the grass. I swiftly grabbed Shen Weiran and pushed her, causing her to lunge toward Chu Kara, but it seemed I had used too much force, and I began to lose my balance. Amidst a chorus of screams, I reached out and shouted, "Add more money," before passing out. Jean Duo, wake up. If you don't wake up, I won't buy you that big gold chain. Woo woo. I heard something incredible and suddenly opened my eyes, only to see Chu Kara's eyes swollen from crying. I'm not dead. I want gold chains. I want 10 of them. My voice was weak, but my determination was strong. Classmate Lin Jean Duo, you're finally awake. Shen Weiran, standing behind Chu Kara, greeted me very gently, but I always felt her eyes were practically trying to skin me alive. How strange, this time, no one pushed Shen Weiran at all, so why was there still a possibility of her falling? Lin Jean Duo, your mom is calling you. The hospital room became lively as Ms. Yi walked in and handed me her phone. Before I entered this story, I was practically an orphan and never really knew how to handle parental concern. Listening to Lin Jinduo's mother crying her heart out on the other end, I could only manage a few sniffles in response. Thank you very much for helping Kara clean up this mess, Ms. Yi said, taking back the phone as if she had already confirmed that it was her own disappointing daughter who had pushed someone. I quickly explained. Classmate Shen lost her footing on her own. It has nothing to do with Kara. Shen Weiran was taken aback for a moment, biting her lip as if she had suffered a great injustice, and stammered, actually, it's not entirely Kuro's fault. I almost cursed it out loud. Chu Kara suddenly spoke up. There are cameras at the mountaintop. I noticed them when I went up. The relationship between Chu Keru and Ms. Yi was still very strained. It is said that Ms. Yi almost cut off Chu Keru's allowance even after she started learning to paint. Although it's unclear how the mother and daughter argued, it seems they didn't force Chu Keru to change her plans. The steps there are too old and somewhat loose. We should send the video to the management unit and have them properly repair it. Shen Weiran changed the subject quickly, and I secretly rolled my eyes. With acting skills like that, she should pursue a career in the entertainment industry. Mrs. Yi wasn't concerned about the children's squabbles. Instead, she said to me, "Your leg is seriously injured, and my family will take full responsibility, but you can't go to school now. I'll hire a private tutor for you." As a gesture from Keru, I grinned, looking deeply moved, and grabbed Chu Keru's hand, speaking with heartfelt emotion. "Study hard, aim for a good university. The first step to success is to cut ties with your crush. You must study hard, just like in the previous life." Chu Keru was admitted to H University, a top-tier institution in City A, except this time, she got in on her own merit, whereas in the original story, the Chu family donated a laboratory to get her in, and I, under the one-on-one tutoring of the private teacher personally chosen by Ms. Yi, barely managed to get into the lowest scoring major there. Talk about squeezing every last drop. Milking me. The nanny, for all I'm worth. Keru has been well taken care of by you. This is your reward, Ms. Yi pushed a card toward me. Though I didn't know the exact amount, I was sure there were a lot of zeros at the end. Not at all. The young lady and I are the closest of friends. Our bond is stronger than gold. We need to add, the warmth of home. Then I quickly slipped the card into my pocket. Chu Keru, the one from the fashion design department, isn't her family in real estate. She got in as a special talent student. Probably not great at academics, just buying her way into university. Her family has money, exactly. Chu Keru and Shen Weiran come from similar family backgrounds. We went to the same high school, and Shen Weiran is genuinely a top student. I am still Chu Keru's lackey, carrying 2 big bags of snacks for the young lady. Sometimes it's just unfortunate. You can't help but overhear a lot of gossip. In the book, Chu Keru, who paid her way into school, being talked about is one thing, but this time, Chu Keru genuinely fought her way up through hard work. What am I? I'm a lackey. If I see my master getting bitten and don't make a fuss, then I'm useless. Ouch, that's so sour. Who's spewing all this bitterness at H University? As soon as I appeared, I startled the group. They exchanged glances and waved their hands dismissively. "We know you're her lackey. Stop barking here and go back to being your poor, pathetic servant." I unzipped my jacket, revealing the 5 large gold chains around my neck. They gleamed brilliantly under the sunlight, dazzling to the eyes. Why does my neck feel so itchy? I glanced at the group of them, smiling as I watched the ever-changing emotions in their eyes. I was recalling the plot of the novel, thinking that since the previous attempts had been forced, it was likely that the major disasters and calamities were unavoidable. In the university arc, the biggest conflict occurs when the male and female leads, along with Chu Keru, participate in a highly prestigious design competition. In the original story, Chu Keru is portrayed as a useless and incompetent person who stubbornly clings to Su Jun. Surprisingly, Su Jun and Shen Weiran, who are already in a confirmed relationship, accept her. However, Chu Keru, who only hinders progress, not only slows down the team's work but is also found to have plagiarized in the part of the design assigned to her. In the end, she drags down the male and female leads and even gets exposed on social media. The labels of useless good for nothing and morally corrupt followed her for the rest of her life. Lin Jin Duo, I'll pay you 800 a day to team up with me. I had just finished class when Chu Keru cornered me at the entrance of the teaching building. I can't draw or design, so I had no intention of participating, but 800 a day, what a huge temptation. Okay, if I hold you back, you can't dock my pay, but the team needs at least 3 people to compete. Who are you planning to ask? I rubbed my hands together, ready to start my plan to earn my salary, while Chu Keru also began to worry. Her reputation isn't great, and mine is even worse. Who in their right mind would want to join a team with the 2 of us? The teacher said that if anyone can't form a group, the school will help arrange it, Chu Keru said with a bright, sunny smile. I already have a bad feeling in my heart. What a coincidence. The 4 of us are in the same group, the campus's most talked about couple. Su Zhen and Shen Weiran, holding hands, sat down across from the two of us. I already said, the plot is mandatory, and even with me here this time, it probably won't make much difference. Yes, Chu Karu is very good at drawing, so we're adding wings to a tiger. After all this time, Su Zhen still has that smooth-talking demeanor, trying to build relationships within the group. But I can't favor one over the other and neglect my main squeeze, Shen Weiran. So in this strangely tense group of mine, the atmosphere is always so bizarre. Chu Karu was sketching in the activity room, and Su Zhen would leave some candies or snacks for her. Then, with his handsome face, he would ask with concern, "Karu, there's still plenty of time, don't be too nervous. This snack was specially bought after waiting in line. I heard it's really delicious." Chu Karu threw down the pen in her hand and crossed her arms. "Hey! Why give such delicious things to me instead of Shen Weiran?" Su Zhen smiled openly. Ran doesn't like sweets, and you're the team's main force, so of course you need to be taken good care of. I remember you really like osmanthus flavor. Want to try it? I'm the third wheel, shining bright, but I have to admit, Su Zhen really knows how to charm girls. Chu Karu likes osmanthus flavor, something she mentioned offhand back in high school. A member of the opposite sex who can remember someone's preferences for so long, and is quite good-looking too, is truly touching, but over the years, Chu Karu has picked up some bad habits from me. I mentioned it when I was in my second year of high school, didn't I, osmanthus? I can't believe you remembered it for so long. Chu Karu smiled sweetly, making Su Zhen's eyes soften with tenderness. Thinking about it carefully, it's really perverted. Su Zhen's face froze. Ha 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 ha. I, the third wheel, suddenly burst into laughter and fell right off my chair. If you ask me, the male lead might be a central air conditioner. He flirted with Shen Weiran, teased Chu Karu, and now he's even beastly enough to try flirting with me a bit. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You're just coveting my gold chain. I earned every bit of it myself, and you can't have a single piece. Looking at Su Zhiyuan's beaming smile, I tightened my collar and acted quite arrogantly. Get out of the way. If you like gold chains, let Shen Weiran buy them for you. Don't come looking at mine. Humph. I hugged my chest, tilted my head back, and bumped Su Zhen aside. Su Zhen stopped laughing and said with an unclear meaning, "Why do you always interfere with Karu? You've completely controlled her life." I frowned and stared at him, feeling as if he was very angry, but Su Zhen didn't give me a chance to ask and turned away. I have a lot of things to keep me busy. The young lady has been fully focused on her sketches these past 2 days and has lost weight. I should buy more delicious food to claim credit. Duo Jean, why do you insist on me setting up a video camera? It feels really weird being stared at by a lens. The young lady, eating her boxed meal, squatted down in a very down-to-earth manner. I watched the blinking red light on the camera, silently praying that it wouldn't be needed. The next day, I found that someone had covered it with many design reference books, models, and discarded drafts, hiding the camera very thoroughly. 3 days after the competition submission deadline, the social media platforms of H University exploded. Group 7 is suspected of plagiarism. Their work has been taken down for investigation. Group 7. Shen Weiran and Su Zhen, that doesn't seem possible. They have Chu Karu and some country bumpkin named Lin Jean Duo in their group. Those two are questionable. Yeah, it's not even certain if Chu Karu genuinely got into the Design Institute on her own merit. I was checking out at the supermarket and heard these words clearly. I just don't understand why Chu Karu has to suffer from gossip. They would rather believe excuses like the Chu family donating money to buy things and secretly lowering the admission score for Chu Karu. Miss, our recording has come in handy. After buying snacks, I headed toward Chu Karu's dormitory, smiling happily as I looked at the more than 900 yuan in delivery fees that had been added to my phone. In the original story, Chu Karu did plagiarize and even hired a ghostwriter. But this time, Chu Karu truly has genuine talent and learning. All those designs were completed independently by her, so how could she have found such a perfect prototype to plagiarize? Teacher, I left my equipment in the activity room because photography is my hobby. Do you believe me? I took the copied video to the teachers in charge of the competition. Chu Karu stood behind me without saying a word, her eyes fixed on the screen where I was playing the video. 6 days ago, at 1:45 in the morning. A figure of not very tall stature entered the activity room. She raised her phone, took a few photos of the sketches on the table, then began flipping through them with a handkerchief, continuing to take pictures. As the video's brightness was increased, a blurry but recognizable figure appeared on the screen, an unfamiliar classmate. The school ultimately decided on expulsion. At first, this student remained unafraid, but when it became clear that the school was serious, he quietly confessed. It was Shin Wei-ran. She said she'd give me 8,000 yuan for each time. I'm a student from a poor family, and I really need the money. I crouched nearby and suddenly laughed. How stingy, just these few coins. If it were my dear young lady, it would definitely be in the 5 figures. Standing beside me, Chu Kara let out a sigh of relief and said cheerfully, I knew it was her. It wasn't until Shin Wei-ran entered the office that she showed a hint of unwillingness. Why? Just how much of a persecution complex do you all have that you still need to keep cameras around? Chu Karu rubbed her chin and said nonchalantly, you know what, that spot where we argued during our hike back then actually didn't have any cameras. Shen Wei-ran was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly let out a couple of laughs. You've learned to lie. The matter was naturally handled with seriousness. However, it seems Ms. Yi may have stirred things up behind the scenes. Especially since I saw in the news that the Chu family took several deals from the Shin family. Shen Wei-ran and Su Zhen came to see us once. Su Zhen asked me, when exactly did you find out? I stroked my gold chain. The first time you saw Karu, your expression was strange, and your subsequent behavior was also odd. But in the end, one thing I can confirm is that the rumors about Chu Karu at school were all spread by the two of you. The male and female leads exchanged a look of disbelief. I touched my gold chain, now reduced to only 4 strands, and sadly lowered my eyes. Why must you force me to bear the blame? Must you make my life a complete failure? Chu Kara looked somewhat weary. The one who answered us was Shen Wei-ran, who looked at me with hatred, then asked her. She knows the essence of this place. Luck is conserved. We are the protagonists. Why must you change the fate of a supporting character destined for tragedy? Why must you take what is ours? Looking at their frenzied expressions, I helplessly shrugged my shoulders, because I am my young lady's lackey. Is that reason acceptable? Shen Wei-ran dropped out, a face-saving gesture from the school, because she is the eldest daughter of the Shin family. However, Su Zhen was much more unfortunate. He was directly expelled. The night before he left, he even came to find me, he said, the first time I saw her. The real meaning in my eyes was that I wanted to change my approach to solving the problem. Shen Wei-ran and Chu Karu are actually no different. With a piece of beef jerky in my mouth, I suddenly pulled out an old Oxford dictionary from behind. Even the power of knowledge can't purify a scumbag like you. Selfish, self-serving, and shamelessly living off others. I'll beat you. And in the second month after they left H University, a heavily promoted hot search topic made its way onto the internet. The drama queen couple from H University. By the time I saw it in the dorm, they had already been criticized for several days. What are these two trying to achieve? Just to cyberbully a former classmate and pretending to fall off a mountain. This young lady is pretty ruthless to herself too. Chu Karu didn't provoke anyone. Okay. The next trending topic is, whose ancestral grave did Chu Karu dig up? I turned off my phone. In the original story, the self-reliant Cinderella and the perfect heiress madly in love have both disappeared. Is the luck in this world really that scarce? If you don't take the supporting character's fortune, are the main characters just a joke? So what are Chu Karu and I to each other? In my junior year, Chu Karu went abroad for further studies, while I continued to delve into my challenging major, waiting to graduate. One day, Ms. Yi contacted me and asked if I wanted to join the Chu Corporation. I was very sad. I had originally planned to wait for the young lady to return so I could continue being her lackey and slack off. Chu Karu had been abroad for 6 years, and when she returned, she had become a designer who had to face the barrage of cameras and flashing lights. As for me, I was sitting in an independent office, quietly shedding tears over a large stack of documents and reports. Lin Jin Duo. The office door was pushed open, and Chu Karu, wearing sunglasses and wrapped up tightly, peeked her head in. Miss, you've finally returned. This old servant has been waiting for you so long. I took a big leap in front of Chu Karu, but no matter how hard I tried, not a single tear would come out. Chu Karu rummaged in her bag for a long time before pulling out a beautiful gift box. As soon as it was opened, inside was a gold chain as thick as a thumb, as expected of my young lady. Always knows my taste, Lin Jin Duo. I had a dream while I was abroad. Chu Keru sat on my guest sofa, sipping a milk tea that originally cost 25 but had a delivery fee of 888. I dreamed that you weren't like this. You were silent. You hated me. You thought I was insulting you by giving you money. I became very, very bad. My grades were poor. I was foolish. I even hurt people and hired someone to kidnap. Then you found Shen Weiran and the others. And together you forced me out of the Chu family. It was very cold, so I couldn't go on living anymore. I jumped into the reservoir, sank very deep, and no one ever came looking for me again. I wiped her tears with a wet tissue, said with heartfelt sincerity, once the money is in place, Lin Jean Duo, vow to protect the young lady with my life. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.